Hello, everyone. This is my next topic about the presidential inauguration day. But what is it? I'm here to read. I'm here to recite some of the presidential inaugurations about each president. But right now, I'm going to recite Joe Biden's inauguration speech about some of the stuff that he what he addressed after he got sworn in from office. But the American story depends on not on any one of us, but not on some of us, but on all of us, on we the people who seek more perfect union. This is a great nation. We are good people. Over the centuries, through storm and strife and peace and war, we have come so far, but we still have far to go. We will press forward with speed and urgency. We have much to do in this winter of pearl of possibility, much to repair, much to restore, much to heal, much to build, and much to gain. A few periods in our nation's history have been more challenging or difficult than one we are in now. Once in a century, a virus silently stalks the country, takes many lives in 1 year. America lost in all World War II. Million jobs have been lost. Hundreds of thousands of people, business has been closed. A cry for racial justice for some 400 years is making moves us. The dreams of justice for all were deferred no longer. A cry for survival comes from the planet itself, a cry that can be more desperate or any more clear. And now a rise in political extremists and white supremacy, domestic terrorism that we must confront and we will defeat. To overcome those challenges, to restore the soul, and to secure the future of America requires more than words. It requires more elusive things in a democracy and unity. In another January in Washington, on New Year's Day, 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. When he puts pen on the paper, the president says, "If my name ever goes down in history, it will be for this act and whose soul in it. My whole soul is in it. Today, on this January day, my whole soul is in this, bringing America together, uniting our, uniting our nation. I ask every American to join me in this cause, uniting to fight the common foe we face: anger, resentment, hatred, extremism, lawlessness, violence, diseases, joblessness, and hopelessness. With unity, we can do great things. Important things. We can fight wrong. We can right wrongs. We can put people to work in good jobs. We can teach our children in safe schools. We can overcome the deadly virus. We can reward work, rebuild the middle class, and make healthcare secure for all of us. We can deliver racial justice. We can make America once again the leading force and good in the world. I know. Speaking of unity, that could sound like a foolish fantasy, but I know the forces that divide us and deep, and they are real. But I know they are not new. Our history has been a constant struggle between the American idea that we all created equal and the brash, ugly reality of racism, nativism, fear, and demonization has long torn us apart. The battle is penal. Victory is never assured. The rest of the Civil War, the Great Depression, World War, 9/11, through struggle, sacrifice, and setbacks, our better angels have always prevailed. In each of these moments, each one of us, enough one of us, come together, come forward, carry us all forward, and we can do so now. History, faith, and reason show the way the unity. We can see each other not as adversaries but as neighbors. We treat each other with dignity and respect. We can we can join forces, stop the shouting, and lower the temperature. For without unity, there is no peace, only bitterness and fury. No progress, only exhausting outrage. No nation, only a state of chaos. This is our historical moment in crisis and challenge, the unity that path forward. We must meet the moment of the United States of America. If we do that, I guarantee you we will not fail. We have never ever failed in America when we have acted together. So today, at this time, in this place, let us start afresh, all of us. Let us listen to one another, hear one another, see one another, show respect to one another. Politics need not be raging, fire destroying everything in its own path. Every disagreement doesn't have to be a cause for total war. We must reject a culture in which the facts themselves are manipulated or even manufactured. My fellow Americans, we have to be different than this. America has to be different than this. And I believe America is better than this. Just look around. Here we stand in the shadow of the Capitol dome that was completed by the Amen Civil War when the Union itself was hung in the balance. We endured, we prevailed. Here we stand looking down for the great mall where Dr. King spoke of his dream. Here we stand where 100 years ago, another inaugural, thousands of protesters tried to block brave women from marching in the right to vote. Today we are marking the swearing in the first woman in American history elected national office, Vice President Kamala Harris. Don't tell me things can't change. Here we stand across the Potomac from Arlington National Cemetery, where the heroes who gave their last full measure of devotion to rest in eternal peace. And here we stand in just days of the righteous. That did not happen. It will never happen again. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. To all those who supported our campaign, I am humbled to the faith that placed in us. To all those who did not support us, let me say this. Hear me out and we move forward to measure a me in my heart. If you still disagree, so be it. The democracy, that's America. The right to dissent, peaceable, and guardrails of republic is perhaps our nation's greatest strength. You hear me clearly. A disagreement must be leading to decision. And my pledge to you, I will be the president for all Americans. I will fight as hard as those who did not support me for those who did. Many centuries ago, St. Augustine, the saint of my church, wrote that people with multitude defined by the common objects of their love. Whether common objects we love or define us as Americans, I think I know. Opportunity, security, liberty, dignity, respect, honor, and yes, the truth. Recent weeks and months have taught us a painful lesson. The truth is, these are lies. Lies that told power and profits. Each of us has a duty and responsibility as citizens and as Americans, especially the leaders that have pledged honor of our Constitution and protect our nation, to defend the truth and to defeat the lies. I understand many Americans view the future with some fear and trepidation. I understand they worry about their jobs and about taking care of their families and what comes next. I get it. But the answer is not turn inward. It's the retreat and competing factions, distrusting those who don't not like you do and worship the way you do and don't get their news from the same sources we do. We must end civil war that pits red against blue, rural versus urban, conservative versus liberal. We can do this if we open our souls instead of hardening our hearts. If we show a little tolerance and humility, if we were willing to stand in another person's shoes just for a moment, because here is the thing about life: there is no accounting for what we fate to deal with. Those are some days that we need a hand. Those are the days that we are called to lend one, and those are how we must be with one another. And if we, but we are this way, our country will be stronger and more prosperous and ready in the future. My fellow Americans, in the work ahead of us, we need each other. We need our strength preserved through this dark winter. We're entering what we may have the toughest, deadliest period of the virus. We must set aside the politics and finally face the pandemic and as one nation. I promise you this, as the Bible says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. We will get through this together. The world is watching today. Now here is my message and beyond our borders. America has been tested, and now we have come out stronger for it. We will repair our alliance and engage the world once again, not to be our yesterday's challenges, but today and tomorrow's. We will lead not merely as an example of our power, but by the power of our example. We will be strong, trusted partner for peace, progress, and security. We have been through so much in this nation, and as the first act as president, I would like to ask you to join me in a moment in silent prayer to the remember of all those we lost in the past year to the pandemic. To those 40,000 fellow Americans, mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sons and daughters, friends, neighbors, and co-workers, we will honor them by becoming the people in our nation we can know, we can, we can and should be. Let us say a silent prayer to the lives for us they left behind in our country. Amen. Let me take a breather for a minute. Man, so tired. The time, this is the time of testing. We face an attack on democracy and on truth, a raging virus, growing inequity, the sting of systematic racism, a climate and crisis, America's role in the world. Any of those who would be enough to challenge us in profound ways. But the fact is, we face them all at once. Present this nation with the greatest responsibilities. But now we must step up, all of us. It is time for our boldness. There is so much to do, and there is a certain we will be judged, you and I, for how we resolve the cascading crisis of our area. We will rise on the occasion. We will master the rare and difficult hour. We will meet the obligation, pass along a new and better world for our children. I believe we must, and I believe we will. And when we do, we will write the next chapter in American story. It's a story that we might sound something like a song that means toward me. It's called America's Anthem. And one verse stands out for me. The work of our prayers of centuries that have brought us the day. What shall be our legacy? What will our children say? Let me know in my heart when days are through. America, America, I give you best to you. Let us add our own work in prayer to the unfold story of our nation. If we do this, then when our days are through, our children's children will say of us, they gave in their best. They did their duty. They healed a broken land. My fellow Americans, I close today where I began with a sacred oath. Before God and all of you, I give you my word. I always will level with you. I will defend the Constitution. I will defend our democracy. I will defend America. I will give you my service, thinking not of power, but of possibilities. No personal interest, but the public good. Altogether, we shall write an American story of hope and not fear, of unity, not division, of light, not darkness. America's story of decency and dignity, of love and healing, of greatness and goodness. May this be the story that guides us, and the story that inspires us, the story that tells ages that you come, yet to come, and we answered the call to history. We met the moment. The democracy and hope, truth and justice do not die on our watch, but thrive. That's our America's security, liberty at home, and it's once again the beacon to the world. This is what we are forbear one another, and generations to follow. And the purpose resolves we turn to task our time, established by faith, and driven, and devote to one another and to this country we love with all our hearts. May God bless America. May God protect our troops. Thank you, America. All right. This is the inauguration address from Ronald Reagan. The business of our nation goes forward. The United States are confronted with economic eviction in great proportions. We suffer from the longest and one of the worst sustained inflations in our nation's history. It distorted economic decisions, penalized thrift, and crushes our struggling young and fixed income elder alike. It threatened to shatter the lives of millions of our people. The industries have cast workers into unemployment, causing human misery and personal indignity. Those who do work are denied and a fair return for the labor day by a tax system which penalizes successful achievements and keep us from maintaining full productivity. But great as our tax burden is, it has not kept pace with public spending for decades. We implied deficient and until deficient mortgaging our children's future for temporary convenience of the present. To continue this long guarantee a tremendous social, cultural, political, and economic appeals. You and I are, as individuals, can by borrowing, live beyond our means, but for only limited patrol period of time. Why then should we think about collectively as a nation? We are bound to the same limitations. We must act today in order by preserve tomorrow. There must be no misunderstanding. We're going to act. Begin today. The economic tales that we suffer has come from several decades. Things will not go away in days, weeks, or months, but they will go away. They will go away because we as Americans have the capacity now. We had in the past do whatever it needs to be done to pressure this last and greatest bastion of freedom. In the present crisis, government is not the situation to our problem. Government is the problem. From this time to time, we have been tempted to believe that society has become too complex and managed by self rule, that government by an elite group of superior government for, by and of all the people. If no one amongst us is capable of governing himself, then who is amongst us the capacity to govern someone else? All of us together in our government must bear the burden. The solutions we seek must be equitable, with no group singled out to pay the higher price. We hear much of special interest groups. Our concern must be the special interest group that has been too long neglected. It knows no selection boundaries or ethnic or racial divisions. It crosses political party lines. It's made up by men and women who raise our food, patrol our streets, mend our minds, and franchise, teach our children to keep our homes, and heal us sick in professional industries, shopkeepers, clerks, cabbies, and truck drivers. They are, in short, the people, we the people, the breed called Americans. Now, give me a minute. We hear so much special interest groups. Our group must be a special interest group that has been too long neglected. It knows no sectional boundaries or ethnic and racial divisions. It crosses political party lines. It's made up by men and women who raise our food, patrol our streets, man our minds, our factory, teach our children to keep our homes, that heal us when we are sick. Professionalism, industrialists, shopkeepers, clerks, cabbies, and truck drivers. They are, in short, we the people, breed called Americans. This is the American administration's objective. Will be a healthy, vigorous, and growing economy that provides equal opportunity for all Americans with no barriers born to bigotry or discrimination. Putting America back to work means putting all Americans back to work. Ending inflation means freeing all Americans from the terror of runaway living costs. All must share the productive work of this new beginning, and all must share the bounty of a revived economy. With the idealism and fair play are all the core of our system and our strength, we can have a strong, prosperous America at peace with itself and the world. As we begin, let us take the inventory. We are a nation that has a government, not the other way around, and makes us special among other nations of the earth. Our government has no power to accept the granted it by the people, and time to check and reverse the growth of government which shows signs of having grown beyond the concept of the governed. It is my intention to curb the size of influence of the federal establishment and recognition distinction between the powers granted to the federal government and reserved to the United States and to the people. All of us need to remind that the federal government did not create the state. The states created the federal government. Now, so we will not misunderstand, it's not my intention to do away with the government. It is rather must work with us, not over us, to stand by our side, not to ride on our back. Government must provide opportunity, not to smother it, and foster it productively, not to stifle it. If we look at the answer to why, and for so many years, we achieved so much, prospered of our people on earth, is because here in this land we used to unleash the energy individuals of greater extent has ever done before. The freedom and dignity of the individual have been more available and ensured here than try another place on earth. This price of freedom at times has been high, but we must never been willing to pay the price. It is no coincidence that our present troubles parallel and our professionals to the intervention and intrusion of our lives. There's the result of a necessary and excessive growth of government. It's time for us to realize that we are too great a nation to limit ourselves to a small dreams. We are not, as some would have to believe, loomed in inevitable decline. I do not believe that fate that will all of us, no matter what we do. I do believe the fate that will fall on us if we do nothing. So, with creative energy at our command, let's begin an era of national renewal. Let us renew our determination, our courage, and our strength, and let us renew our faith and our hope. We have every right to dream heroic dreams. Those of us who say in the time when they are no heroes and just do not where to look. You could see the heroes every day going in and out in the factory gates. Others, a handful number, produce enough food to feed all of us and the world beyond. You met the heroes across the country counter. They're on both sides on that counter. They, those are the entrepreneurs with the faith themselves, the faith, the idea, create new jobs, new wealth, and opportunity. Those are the individuals and families whose taxes support the government and voluntary gifts support church, charity, culture, and education. That patriotism is quiet but deep. Those values are sustained to our nation's life. I have used the words they and their to speak of their heroes, and I could say to you, because I am addressing the heroes who I speak, you, the citizen, are blessed in the land. Blessed land. You dreams, your hopes, your goals are going to be the dreams, your hopes in the goal of this administration. So help me God. We shall interfere. We shall reflect our compassion that is so much of our makeup. How can we love our country, not love our countrymen, and love them? Reach out a hand when they fall. Heal them when they are sick, and provide opportunities to make them self-sufficient so they will be equal and not just a theory. Can we solve the problem confronting us? Well, the answer is an unequivocal empathetic yes. To paraphrase Winston Churchill, I do not take the oath that I have just taken with the intention of presiding over the solution of the world's strongest economy. In that day ahead, they said, I will propose removing the roadblocks that have slowed our economy and reduced productivity. Steps will be taken and aimed at restoring the balance between the various leads of government. Progress still measured in inches and feet, not miles, but we will progress. It is time to reawaken the industrial giant into our governor back and the lighten punitive tax burdens. And these are those first priorities and those principles. There will be no compromise. On the eve of our struggle of independence, a man must have been one of the greatest amongst the founding fathers. Dr. Joseph Warren, president of Massachusetts Congress, said to his fellow Americans, our country is in danger, but the despair is on the you depending on the futures of America. You can decide what's important questions. What is the rest of happiness, the liberty of millions of unborn, unacted worthy? yourselves. I believe we, the Americans of today, we are already act worthy of ourselves. Already do what we must done to ensure happiness, our liberty for ourselves, our children, and our children's children. Me a breather. As we renew ourselves here in our own land, we be seen having greater strength throughout the world. We will again be the exemplar of freedom and a beacon of hope for those who did not have freedom. To those whose neighbors and our allies who share the freedom, and we will strengthen our historic ties and assure them our support and firm commitment. We will match the loyalty we will strive in mutual beneficiary relations. We will not use our friendship to impose on our sovereignty and our sovereignty to not for sale. And as for the enemies of freedoms, those are the presidential potential adversaries. They will remind that peace is highest aspiration of America's people. We will negotiate for it, sacrifice it, and we will not surrender it, now or never. Our forbearance should never be misunderstood. Our reluctance to conflict should be not misjudged as failure of will. But when action is required to preserve the national security, we will act. We will maintain sufficient strength to prevail if we need to be, knowing if we do have the best chance of never have to use our strength. Above all, we must realize there is no arsenal or no weapons and arsenals in the world. It is for mobile and that will and more courage of free men and women. It is our adversaries in today's world that we do not have. It is that we have America we do have. Let the be understand by those who practice prey upon their neighbors. I am told that tens of thousands of prayers meetings are held in this day. For that I am deeply grateful. We are a nation under God, and I believe God has intended us to be free and will be for good. I think each of inauguration day, future year, declared the prayer declared day of prayer. Sorry about that. I'm taking a breather. This is the first time in history the ceremony will be held, and you have been told on the west front of Capitol, standing here, one face, magnificent vista open up to the city's special beauty and history. At the end of the open, that we shrines to the giants of the soldiers we stand directly in front of me. The monument of monumental man, George Washington, father of our country, a man of humility who came to greatness reluctantly. He led America to Revolution victory into an infant neighborhood, off to one side. The statement of Memorial Thomas Jefferson, Declaration of Independence, flame with eloquence. Man, so tired. Like I said, taking a breather. So, what do you think of Ronald Reagan's speech so far? Inaugural speech. This is what he spoke on the inauguration in 1981 when he got sworn in. Oh, man, so tired about that. Beyond those mountains of heroism and the Potomac River, and so far shore sloping hills of Arlington National Cemetery, with its row and row, row and row of simple markers being crossed bearers the Stars of David, they add up in a tiny fraction of the price that has been paid for our freedom. Each of those markers end to a monument, the kind of hero I spoke of earlier. The lives ended in places called the Bellevue Woods, the Argonne of Omaha Beach, Salmari, and halfway around the world, the Guadalajara, Pork Chop Hill, the Chosen Reservoir, and in hundreds of rice paddies and jungles, a place called Vietnam. Under one such a marker lies a young man, Martin Treptow, who left his job in a small town barbershop in 1917 to go to France with the famed Rainbow Division. There, on the Western Front, he was taken out to carry a message between battalions under the heavy artillery fire. We are told on his body was found a diary. On the flavel of the headbag, my pledge. We have written those words: America must win the war. Therefore, I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, and I will endure. I will fight cheerfully to do my utmost. The issue of struggle depend on me alone. Man, this is a long. Take another breather here. It's not easy reading the whole speech all the time. Even if it has to be one, even this is a 1 hour video. We are today the body we found in a diary, in the flagpole under the heading. My pledge has written those words: America must win this war. Therefore, I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure. For cheerfully do what utmost. The issue of whose struggle depends on me alone. The crisis that we are facing today will not require the kind of sacrifice that Martin Treptow and so many thousands of others were called upon to make. It does not require, however, in their best efforts, our willingness to believe in ourselves and to believe our capacity to perform great deeds. Believe that together, in God's help, we can resolve the problems that now confront us. After all, we shouldn't believe that we are Americans. God bless you and thank you. Well, here's another part of Ronald Reagan's speech. I'm not going to bore you with the whole speech, so I'm going to read some of it I can to you guys. By 1980, we knew it was time to renew our faith, to strive with all our strength towards the ultimate. Its invisible freedom consists with our orderly society. We believe then and now that there are no limits of growth and human progress when men and women are free to follow their dreams. We were right to believe that. Tax rates have been reduced, inflation are dramatic, and more people employed than ever believed in our history. We are creating a nation once again vibrant, robust, and alive. There are many mountains yet to climb. We will not rest until America enjoys a fullness of freedom, dignity, and opportunity of our birthright. It's our birthright as citizens of a great public, and we must meet this challenge. These will be the years America has restored the confidence and traditions of progress, when our values of faith, family, work, and neighborhood we restated at a modern age, when our economy is finally freed from government grip, when we made sincere efforts in meaningful arms reduction, rebuild our defense, our economy, and developing new technologies help preserve peace in a troubled world. When Americans courageously supported the struggle of liberty, self government, and free enterprise that drew their world, and turned the tide of history away to tolerance of darkness into warm sunlight to human freedom. My fellow citizens, our nation's voiced by greatness. We must do what we know is right, to do with all our might. Let history say of us. Those were our golden years when the American Revolution was reborn. when freedom gained a new life, when America reached out for the best. Our 1-2 party system served us well over the years. We never better than those times we challenged. We came better not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans united to a common cause. Two of our founding fathers, a Boston lawyer named Adams and a Virginia partner named John Blanchard named Jefferson, members of the remarkable group who met in Independence Hall and dared to think they could start the world over again in important lessons. They had become political rivals in presidential election in the 1800s. Those years later, both are retired and have softened their anger. Both speak to each other again through letters, and a bond was established, and those we helped create the government of ours. In 1826, in our 50th anniversary, our anniversary of the Declaration, they both died. They died on the same day with a few hours on each other, 4th of July. Taking a breather for a minute. Yeah, it's not easy reading Ronald Reagan's speech all day. Try reciting Ronald Reagan's speech every day about what he has to speak on behalf. Speaking of, a lot of times I'm already right now, I'm probably getting a little jazzed for doing this. But it's worth it because I'm here to tell you about why presidential inaugurations is the important role after being sworn in. Being sworn in is not the only thing is not the only thing that's important, but it's also the most important is the speech about how we address the nation and how we are going to change the world. A lot of times we don't know how we're going to change things. Changing is tough back then. Being on that podium right now. Being on that podium right now and trying to figure out what to say. Well, with a heart in hand, stand in one today. Our people, with God determine our future, shall be worthy of our past. As we do, we must not repeat the well-intended errors of our past. We must never again abuse the trust of working men and women by sending the earnings of our fill chase after spiriting demands of a bloated federal establishment. You elected us in 1980 to end this procession of disaster, and I can't believe you reelected us in the reverse course. As part of our efforts and our idea vindicated by 25 months of economic growth, freedom and incentive is unleashed to drive an entrepreneur genius, score human progress, and begin the increase of rewards to work, savings, investments, reduce the increase in the cost and the size of the government interference in people's lives. Most simply, our tax system. We make our move so far and bring the rates down for all our work and earn. We must think anew and move with a new boldness and say, so every American who seeks to work and find work, the least amongst us, shall have the equal chance to achieve the greatest thing that to be heroes, to help our sick, feed the hungry, protect our peace amongst our nation, and lead the world a better place. The time has come for the new American emancipation, a great national drive to tear down economic barriers and liberate the spirit of enterprise and the distress in areas of our country. My friends, together we can do this. And if we must, so help me God, from new freedom will spring new opportunities for growth, a more productive, fulfilled, and united people, so stronger America, an America that we lead in technological revolution, and also open the mind of heart and soul of the treasure of literature, music, and poetry, and the values of faith, courage, and love. A dynamic economy with more citizens working and paying taxes. We will be our strongest to bring down the nation's defects, but in almost unbroken 50 years, the defects spending in the has finally brought us time to reckoning. We have come to a turning point, a moment for hard decisions. I have asked the cabinet and my staff the question, and now I'm put the same question to all of you. If not us, who? And if not now, when? It must be done to going ahead towards the program aimed at reaching a balanced budget. We can help begin reducing the nation's debt. The national debt. It will short cement a budget of Congress aimed at freezing government's program spending for the next year. Beyond that, we must take further steps to permanently control the government's power to tax and spend. We must act now to protect our future generation from government desire to spend its citizens' money and them to servitude when the bills come due. Let us make our own constitutional for the federal government to spend, our federal government takes in. We have already started returning the people and the state to local governments' responsibilities and handling by them. Now there is a place for federal government in matters of social compassion. Our fundamental goals must be to reduce dependency and upgrade the dignity for all those who affirm the disadvantage. And here's a growing economy and support the family and community offer our best chance of society where compassion is the way of life, where the old and infirm are cared for the young and yes, the unborn protected and the unfortunate took after meat self. And there is another area where the federal government can play a part. As an older American, I remember the time when the people of different races, creed, and ethnic origin in our land kind of hatred and prejudice installed on social custom and yes, in law. There is no story more heartfelt in our history and our progress that we have made. Brotherhood of man, God intended for let us resolve there will be no turning back to hesitation in the road of America with rich and abandoned opportunity of all our citizens. Take another breather. Let freedom ring, buddy. Let freedom ring. Reading Ronald Reagan's inauguration speech is not easy to think. If it was so easy, even I wouldn't. If this was so easy, it was so easy, I wouldn't have laryngitis right now. I wonder back in the 1980s, I wonder how tough it was for him to read all this stuff. Let's resolve that we people will build an America of opportunity society in which all of us, and black, rich and poor, young and old, will go forward together in arms. Again, let us remember through our heritage is one of our blood finds from every corner of the earth. We all Americans pledge to carry on the last best hope of a man on earth. I have spoken to our domestic goals and the limitations that should we put the national government. Now we must task the which is the primary responsibility of national government to the safety and security of our people. Today we utter no prayer. We must fertility the accident prayer of peace on earth. Yet history has shown that peace will not come, nor will our freedom and preserve the goodwill alone. Those are those in the world who will scorn with visions of unity and freedom. One nation, the Soviet Union, has concluded the greatest military buildup in the history of man, building arsenals of awesome offensive weapons. We have made progress in restoring our defense capacity, but remains that have to be done. There must be no waiting by us, not any doubts of others. The Americans will meet our responsibilities to remain free, secure, and in peace. Take another breather for this. You know, when you speak this long, it's not easy trying to keep it an hour. And so far, we have to. So we go forward to the nation's night, that Almighty and its youth, power, and its purpose, with our alliance and strength, and with our economy, leading the world to a new age of economic expansions. We look forward to rich in possibilities, and it's still we have to work and act together, not as members of political parties, but as Americans. My friends, we will live in the world light by lightning. So much changing we will change. So much endures in transcendent times. We're gonna give myself a 2 minute breather for a minute. What do you think about Ronald Reagan's speech? You think it's really good? Well, I spoke on this in the 80s. Even half you guys weren't born back then, but some of you guys were born in 1940s, 50s, or 60s, and you probably heard a speech. I wasn't. I was really too young to even remember. I was only 5 or 6 when he spoke about this, and I barely even remember what he said. My friends, we live in a world lived by lightning. So much changing, we will change, but so much endures in transcendent times. History is a ribbon, always unfurling, and history is a journey. We will continue our journey. We think of those people who traveled before us. We stand together again in the steps of the symbol of our democracy. Or we would be standing in the steps that we have come so cold. Now we are standing inside the symbol of our democracy. Now we will hear again the echoes of our past. A general falls to his knees in the heart of snow in the valley of Forge. A lonely president pieces at the darkened hills and ponders his struggles to preserve the Union. The men of the Alamo call out encouragement to each other. It settles the pushes the west and sings a song. Those strong and the song echoes are forever and fills the knowing air. Another 2 minutes. The rest of the speech is really long, so long, but I don't think it's like an hour's worth when he speaks. So we're gonna give ourselves 3 minutes to breathe. Because I have to finish the rest of the speech, and I will address about why we're speaking. Well, we're almost at 51 minutes. But our goal is to reach 60 minutes. Or 61 minutes, whichever is count, because we are trying to make a 1 hour video here. It is the America's sound. It is hopeful, big-hearted, and idealistic, daring, and decent and fair. Those are our heritage. This is our song. We sing it still. For our problems and our differences, we are together as old. We raise our voices to God and author of the most tender music. May He continue to hold us close to fill in the role of our sound. Sound in unity, affection, and love, and one people under God, dedicated to the dream of freedom, has the purity and human heart called upon us to pass the dream of waiting and hopeful world. God bless you, and may God bless America. We're going to read the part of George W. Bush's inauguration address from 2001 after he got sworn in. You know, that was the closest call back then when he won. Throughout much of the last century, America's faith in freedom and democracy was a rock and raging sea. Now it is a seat upon the wind, taking root of many nations. Our democratic faith is in the creed of our country, and the inborn hope of our humanity is an idea we can carry, but not our own. Thus, we must bear and pass along our. And even after 225 years, we have a long way yet to travel. While many of our citizens prosper, our doubts, the promises, even the justice of our own country. The ambitions of some Americans are limited by failing schools and hidden prejudice and circumstance of the birth. Sometimes our differences are run so deep it seems so far the continent, but a nation of our country. We do not accept this. We will not allow it. Our unity, our union, the serious work of leaders and citizens every generation. And that is my solemn pledge. I will work to build a single nation of justice and opportunity. I know this is our reach because we are guided to power larger than ourselves, created and equal in His image, and we are confident in the principles to unite and lead us onward. America has never been united by blood or birth or soil. We are bound by ideas and that move us beyond our backgrounds, lift us above our interests, and teach us what it means to be citizens. Every child must be taught our principles, and every citizen must uphold them, and every immigrant must embrace these ideas and make our country more, not less, American. Today, we affirm a new commitment to live our nation promise through civility and courage, compassion and character in America, as its best matches a commitment to principle with concern of civility. Our civil society demands from each one of us goodwill and respect, fair dealings, and forgiveness. Some seem to believe that our politics can afford to be petty because it's time for peace. The stakes of our debates appear small, but the stakes of America will never shall be small. If our country does not lead a cause of freedom, it will not be led. If we do not turn our hearts of children towards knowledge and characters, we will lose their gifts and undermine their idealism. If we permit our economy and to drift and decline, but vulnerable will suffer, will live up to challenge. Civility is not a tactic. It is the determined choice to trust our citizen of community over chaos. The community, if we keep it the way we shared accomplishments. America is at best, is also courageous. Our nation's courage has been clear in times of depression and war, when defending common dangers to find our common good. Now we must choose but example of our fathers and mothers and inspire us to condemn us. We must courage in time for blessing confronting problems instead of passing them to the future generations. Together we will reclaim America's schools before ignorance and apathy claim more young lives. We will reform Social Security, Medicare, sparing our children from struggles. We have the power to prevent. We will reduce taxes to recover the momentum of our economy and reward the effort and enterprises of working Americans. We will build our defense beyond challenge, lost weakness, invite challenges, and we will confront the weapons of mass destruction so that we have a new century spirit of new wars. The enemies of liberties and country shouldn't make no mistake. America remains engaged in the role of history and by choice. The shape and the balance of powers favors freedom. We will defend our allies, our interests. We will show purpose without progress. We will meet aggression and bad faith. And we will resolve in strength of our nations. We will speak the values of our nation's birth. Speaking of George W. Bush's inaugural speech is not easy to think. The enemies of our liberty and the country should make no mistake. America remains engaged in the role of history and by choice, shaping a balance of power and favors of freedom. We will defend our allies and our interests. We will show purpose without arrogance. We will meet aggressions of bad faith and resolve the strength to our nation. We will speak values that gave our nation's birth. America, as its best compassion, the quiet American conscience we know deep, presents poverty is unworthy of our nation's promise. Whatever our views or its cause, we can agree that the children at risk are not at fault. Abandonment and abuse are not acts of God, but the failures of love. The provision of prisons, however necessary, is no substitute for hope and order of our souls. We therefore suffer under His duty. America is in need, no strangers to our citizens, no problems. The priorities of all of us are school diminished with no hopeless. Government is a great responsibility for public safety and public health, for civil rights and common schools. Yet compassion to work to a nation, not just a government. Some needs of hurts so deep will not only respond to a mentor's touch, to a pastor's prayer, church and charity, synagogue and mosque in our communities to their humanity. They will have an honored place in our plan and our laws. Many of our country know the pain of poverty, but we can listen to those who do, and I can pledge in our goal when we are wounded, when we see the wounded traveler on the road to Jericho, we will not pass on the other side. America is at best. It's the best place for personal responsibility, is valued and respected. Courage and responsibility is not a search for scapegoats. It is the call of conscience through requires sacrifice. It brings deeper fulfillment. We will find the fullness of life not only in options, but now in commitments. We vow in the children's community and commitments to set us free. Our public interest depends on private characters, on civic duty and family, and bonds and basic fairness, or uncounted, unhonored acts of decency which gives direction to our freedom. And sometimes in life we are called to do great things. But as a saint of our times has said, every day we are called to small things. With great love, the most important tasks of democracy are done by everyone. I will live and lead by principles to advance my convictions, ability to pursue the public interest with courage, to speak out of greater justice and compassion, to call responsibility to live at will. And all these well, I will bring values of our history to care for our times. We are not a story. We are not the story's author of time of turning with its purpose. Yet its purpose is achieve our duty, and our duty is fulfill the service to one another. Never living, never yielding, never finish. We will renew the purpose to make our country just and generous. The affirmation and dignity of our lives in every life. The work will continue. The story goes on. Our angel is still rise when whirlwind directed storm. God bless you all, and God bless America. I had to skip that part. I had to skip the rest of the parts. Not easy when you had to speak on this. Not easy when you had to speak on the rest of the inaugural speeches. These inaugural speeches are really important about how we shape America. How each president wanted to shape America back then. Even Bill Clinton had to do this every day in his life. But he got through it. But he got through it every day. Our time is almost up right now, but we are going to give ourselves a few minutes. These inauguration speeches means one thing, that we are trying to shape America the way it is. We are trying to prove to everybody that one man can change one world. How does a president change one world? One act of random kindness and one day at a time. They will know what to do, and they will have to figure out their nation and how to start. One day. Okay, that's okay. Our time is up. This is Bobby Cinema, and goodbye and good luck.